Your circle will change as you accomplish your goals and level up. Everybody can't go.
All right, y'all, and we live. Welcome to another Everybody Can't Go Convo. Y'all know I'm always excited every time I get on y'all with y'all every weekend. I be hyping up the people that I'm bringing on. Y'all know that I'm about to hype this man up again. This is one of my morning coaches for the past. It's been over a year now. He has been like digging, and he like, hey yo, Jess, you gotta show up. I need you to get this done, need you to get that done. But he do it with a smile. He always has a hug when I get to see him in person. Today I am bringing to you guys George Sierra. And I know you said George. No, Jorge Sierra. Make sure that you say it right. I know it started with the J. We was getting him with that for the first, I don't know how many months. And it's like, we would just let each other say it. And it's like, no, it's Jorge. Come on, y'all. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I mean, yeah, listen, the true fact is I listen to Hey You. So George, Jorge, my government is definitely Jorge. Majority of my life we went by George. Some people call me G. So we're good. We're good. I appreciate the effort because I know that's huge for a lot of folks to, get their name properly said. So yes, thank you. Super glad to be here, blessed and honored to come on your platform, and I'm super proud of you. Super proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, for you guys who are becoming familiar with Jorge, this is the author to Reset. And we got the book, of course. Let me take my bookmark out because I'm still reading and rereading. And this is how to shift your mindset and maximize your full potential. He is also an extreme execution coach and the owner of MVP's Barbershop. So we're going to go in a handful of different directions today while we talk about how all of those things have come together on the journey that has taken Jorge on and how it has brought him to be like a bomb coach in a way that, like, you're talking about taking tragedy and making it into triumph and then bringing that to other people to create transformation. Like, he was already so surface level dope when I first met him. But once I started getting to know him, digging into the book and going deeper and deeper, and you think, oh, there's no more layers to find out. And it's like, yo, that happened to like if you guys are looking for a true story of transformation, I need you guys to cop the book. First of all, I'm gonna have a link for you in the show notes. And some of the concepts and things that you talked about in the book, I definitely have a handful of questions for you that I wanted to go over today. And just some of the thoughts and things that were sparked for me as I was going through the chapters, like put the book down, and I'm like, okay, how can I apply this to my life? What areas can I grow in? What areas can I do something different in? So before I jump into the questions today, let us know about yourself aside from my introduction. Give us a brief intro of you and tell us about what you have going on in your various businesses.
Yeah. So Jess, man, thank you for just being obedient to what you do and highlighting amazing folks. And as I said before, honor and blessed to be on your platform. So Jorge, what's a little bit about Jorge? Jorge's been a paraplegic due to gun violence for the last 30 years, 29 to 30 years. I've been in the wheelchair since I was 17, and it's been a journey, right? One of the things I've always been able to do is just, as just spoke of, using my experience to be able to help others and develop themselves in the space. So anything that I've come off, do coaching or even the book is consist of just my experiences as an entrepreneur, my experience as someone that's been a paraplegic since since my teens, and then just how to really go from that paralyzed to prospect mindset, which is something that I always talk about. Jorge is a husband. He's a father of two. My oldest is 30. My youngest is going to be 18 this month. Beautiful wife, CEO of multiple companies. One of them is being MVPs. And I also have JSA, which is Jorge Sierra and Associates, which consists of coaching, consulting, and speaking. And I'm also a student, right? Jorge was a ninth grade dropout. Uh, by the age of 30, decided to go back to school, went and got my GED. And right now I have another semester or two to finish my undergrad. And then the goal after that is to pivot into grad school to complete my PhD. So yes, that's a little bit of Jorge in a nutshell. I'm a man of God, most importantly. Like, let me clear that all glory to my Father and Savior, because Jorge is not that deep. I just been blessed by opportunities that God has provided for me, and I've been blessed to be able to go through those situations, and be able to serve others as I grow as an individual. So that's a little bit about me.
All right, all right. Thank you for that. And amen. Okay. Because we ain't gotta
Yes,
hide
man.
it around here. So, and then also congrats on your education journey that you're going on right now. Like when I said to y'all, I was like, it's layers upon layers, and it's like, look, I'm going hard, I'm coaching, and it's like, oh, by the way, I'm going back to school. And I'm like, what? Come on. Like, okay, let's go. So let's start off by talking about the barbershop. What inspired you to start the barbershop, to become a barber in the first place? Which was first, the chicken or the egg?
I think it was the chicken, right? Like, I'll be honest with you. For me, it wasn't something that I've been a barber for over 25 years, and so when I got put in the chair at 17, ultimately I became a barber at the age of 19. I went to school through 18, so there was a 2 year window where Jorge started really telling himself whatever we were doing prior, we can't do no more, right? I was emerged into the street life, and at that point, it was just more like I got put in a chair. The next thing, that if I don't make a choice, a change in my behaviors, then it's going to be what? Life in jail. It's going to be me 6 feet under. And that was the reality, right? It wasn't that I seek to become a barber, or I seen someone that had me inspired to become a barber. The reality was that I was in a transition in my life where I needed to do something different. And I always say barbering found me. True story. I drove by, seeing this young lady at the time, stopped to talk to her and be cute. She like, boy, I will call the cops, leave me alone. And I was like, nah, but why are you dressed in white? Right. Like, and just through conversation, she's like, I'm in beauty school. And that conversation was the catalyst of me getting out the car, going into the beauty school, and I never left. And per se, I registered, and my journey as a barber started. Now, mind you, I'm a paraplegic. I'm 19, and when I went into that school, I was the minority. And I'm not talking about skin color. I'm not talking to ethnic background. I'm talking about that I was the only person in a wheelchair with disability, and this was an industry that consists of what? Standing up. And so I'm not in a position to stand up behind the barber chair, but through the grace of God, and walking through those challenges and committing to it, 25 years after, here we are. MVPs was created, and through that journey, and 2024 has become 20 years of me being in business with MVPs Barbershop.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. And I like how you were just able to shoot straight. Like, yep, wasn't no inspo. This is what happened. It's a classic case of you made a decision and you made it right. And it looks like over time, with the impact that you've been able to make from the barbershop and from the barber chair, that was the foundation for you being able to start pouring into people in a comfortable way. I mean, I know y'all like, well, when you been to the barbershop? As a matter of fact, I grew up in the barbershop. I
Yes.
grew up with two of my nephews, and I ended up at the barbershop with them every week, every other week, a lot of times. And I definitely noticed that I'm like, for me, I always perceived the barbershop as like a safe space, the same way that going to the hairdresser with my mom when it was time for me to get my hair done, it was a certain atmosphere in there, certain conversations that would be had. And I always just felt like, okay, that's just something that guys do. Like, yeah, you go to the barbershop, but you're not just getting a cut. If unless you in a rush or anything like that, you about to go get cut up, you gonna take some time that you can let your shoulders down, relax back in the chair. And I can actually say to date, for what I remember, I have not yet met any man that I trust who doesn't trust his barber. And with that trust, I'm like, I already know there's certain conversations that even when it's like, oh, is this a regular, or you gonna bring it up? If it's like, yo, I'm about to go on vacation with my girl, I'm about to go on a guys trip, I'm about to do this, do that, and you're going to talk about like, hey, make sure you got me extra crispy this time. You build that relationship and that rapport. And I kind of liken it to the same way, ladies, we don't just trust anybody playing in our head. That's the reason why we call it playing in our head. If you don't trust your hairdresser or the person that gives you your retie or your retwist or braids you up or whatever. And I noticed that it's the same thing for the fellas. So, as you transition from, or not even really transition, as you made, in addition to, the business that you have at the barbershop and everything, what was the inspo behind actually writing the book? Some of the things that you shared throughout is this has been 10, 15, possibly 20 years in the making. Um, Possibly even further back than that. So, what was the catalyst for you finally like being like, you know what, I'm gonna put pen to paper and put this thing out here in written form?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So the reset book. This is actually my second book, right? And the first book that I had that I wrote was Paralyzed to Prosper, and that was to help students walk into in their greatness. And that right there was a combination of breaking generational curses, right? Just like, that we as human beings, we get into a space and we always look at others win and create impact in so many different ways. And just if you're like me, and this is why you have your platform, right? To create impact, fulfill people with the space with information and really encourage people. And so as I look back on my career as a barber, right? You mentioned that I'm a we talked about me being a speaker, me being a coach. So before the internet, because now unfortunately everybody's a coach and everybody's a speaker. It's the trend, right? And that's, I say unfortunately, not in a bad way, but it's just it does saturate the space, just like barbers, right? When I opened the barbershop, we were the only barbershop. Now there's 10 barbershop on our block, right? Literally, right? And and I'm not exaggerating. It's like literally saturated. But what separates individuals is what we do and how we do it. But my training of what I do now consists of me being able to do what? Coach people behind the chair. I learned the skill set and I've learned to dominate an industry that consists of standing up. I did it sitting down, but it wasn't because, and mind you, you're gonna get a dope haircut from me. We do the razor. I get this my own cleanup, right? I know how to get around with the blade and the trimmers and give you the service. But where my sweet spot is the ability to connect with others and be able to pour into others. So while I have you in my chair for 30, 45 minutes, I was gonna consult you. I was going to be that friend. I was going to be somebody that was just going to listen. And that created and became the catalyst to what I do now. So through that journey, the first book was more of like, my heart is with the youth. Why? Because I came from a tough childhood. I got put in a chair at an early age. And so I'm always looking for ways to pour into our youth, because I believe that if we catch them early, they have a better chance of giving them the tools. So the first book was more, how can I give the future, our future, the tools to be able to, if I could speak to Jorge all over again at 17, what would I say to Jorge? So that's where that book came. And now, mind you, that was tough, because you start telling yourself, who's going to read my book? I'm a ninth grade dropout. Like, do you even have what it takes? And that book took me about a year to actually get together, when if I look back now, I could have done it in 3 months. Fast forward, once I was able to become a published author, that felt amazing. Now the confident level, and I just start understanding where God has me, which is like, listen, bro, you whatever you produce is not for you, right? Whatever wherever I'm at is really to help people really identify how to where they're at and where they're going, and reset how to shift your mindset was really one of those things that it wasn't about. This was more a combination of like you're already proven the concept. Now how can we create a product that it's going to help individuals that are transitioning from their 9 to 5 into entrepreneurship, right? Or you're already in entrepreneurship, or you're just running a household, right? Because it runs this it could be from anybody at a professional level, or it could be somebody at a personal level. Reset consists of just having the ability to know when to press that button and really understand that what happened yesterday, it doesn't matter, right? What does matter is what the present adjustments is going to happen for you, and how can you position what you do have. Even though we talked about just having certain lights in our room and dealing with certain things, like that's cool, but we're going to maximize what we do have to be able to leverage what we want and what we need. So that's where the reset, the second book, came about. It's just really getting better with crafting my mastering my craft, and at the same time I'm always thinking about how can I put into words, how can I help others to really overcome the challenges that I've been able to overcome in the last 30 years, and still learning, right? And still, because I tell people, you don't, when you look at people that are killing the game and that you aspire to and you admire, that doesn't mean they don't have the challenges. They just have the tools and the system to really make adjustments and make it work for them. So that's what the book, and that's where it came out. The second book is just more, how can I create more value, more impact to individuals that are really intrigued with making sure that they have control of their life, and they have not only the control but more options for themselves and their family.
Okay, cool. Now, as you were talking through that, it put me in the mind frame of one of the things that you talked about, where you started within the book, was talking about a paralyzed mindset. And the first thing that I thought when I first saw the phrase, I was thinking paralyzed by fear. And I didn't think about it until I read further into it, that there are so many different things in life and so many circumstances that can lead us to having that paralyzed mindset. So walk the audience through, like, what is a paralyzed mindset, and then how does that affect our lives?
Well, let me ask you this. When you hear, put aside what you read, right? When you hear the word paralyzed, what is one or two things that come up automatically prior to you even reading the book or knowing Jorge? If you heard paralyzed, what would that be to you? What's one thing that would come up?
The first two things I would think of is paraplegic or fear. Those
Or
are the first two things. Hmm.
So when you talk about paraplegic, what comes with being paraplegic? It comes where when you're paralyzed, you can't do what? You can't feel,
Hmm.
right? Paralyzed might be even thought of broken, right? Can't move, right? So when I talk about the word paralyzed, that's all the above. And one of my sayings is that if you look in the back, it says, "What is your wheelchair?" And what I mean by "what is your wheelchair" is that way before I got put in my physical chair, I had what we call the paralyzed mindset. Having a paralyzed mindset could consist of comparison, consist of ego, could consist of self doubt. It could consist of whatever unethical character you're leading with, lack of whatever that is, right? So, and what does that mean? That paralyzed, that when you operate off a paralyzed mindset, you're not moving, you're stuck, you're numb. Most likely you can't, you have the "I don't care" attitude. If you're numb, then you can't even feel, or you can't even understand that you're doing yourself harm or you're doing others harm. If you're broken, then most likely it's what we call a polluted mindset or polluted thoughts, right? And that could consist of just anything, right? I'm right now fasting from social media. Your brother has not been on social media for about a week, and the goal is by the end of July. So we're gonna do 30 days plus of fasting of social media. So I'm not gonna get on social media. Why? because the form of me jumping onto social media would paralyze me, even if I'm not strolling. I'm actually doing some work, but I realized that within itself was something that was becoming intoxicating to my thoughts and how I move. So I couldn't be creative. There was a challenge. So I caught myself, and I understood that within itself, even though it's something that I do as a brand, I have other people that are taking care of that for me. So I understood to make the adjustment. So Paralyzed, it consists of so many. And so when I ask, what is your wheelchair? It's really asking you what's paralyzing you right now to go into the next level. So when I ask people, I said, and what's your wheelchair can be consist of, like, what are your blind spots, right? What are some things that are challenge you? So that, to me, when I talk about the paralyzed mindset and I talk about paralyzed to prosperity, is really going from that mindset where we are feeling stuck, numb, broken, into not making excuses and using the ability that God has given us every day to wake up and saying that my excuses no longer excuse me to do what I needed to do and what I said I was going to do.
That's dope. That's dope. As you walk through that, one of the things that it made me think to myself, I'm like, well, dang, if there are all of these things that we can allow to paralyze our mindset, I'm like, shoot, that means we can allow other people to cause like that mindset paralysis in ourselves, depending on how we are allowing ourselves to be treated, who we're choosing to run with, um, who we're choosing to keep company with, and what are they saying to you? All of those things that are coming into your mind. How you brought up the social media thing. Sometimes we aimlessly scrolling, or you're not even thinking about it. I read somewhere one of those like little facts where it talks about how quickly your subconscious can be pierced. And basically, us just clicking and opening the app, whatever is the first picture that flashes up there, it takes like milliseconds for that image to go into your brain and be able to affect your mood, your thoughts, and thereby, I'm thinking, the outcomes of even your day. And depending on whether or not you grabbed that phone and started going on social media first thing in the morning or right before you go into bed. So shout out to you for doing that social media fast. I have done it before, and usually will do it a few times a year. Even if it's not me like committing to an actual fast, I'll just not be on for a while. Simply to just get all of that extra stuff out of my head. And so of course, with we always talking about everybody can't go around here. I'm always going to look at, in addition to the things that we're doing to ourselves or the things that we're thinking about ourselves, sometimes some of the things that we end up thinking about and we're stewing on, I always go back to, shout out to Pastor Titus, I always go back to the question, who told you that? And because so often some of the things that we end up sitting in with ourselves, some of those very same thoughts that could cause us to have and keep a paralyzed mindset, sometimes it didn't even come from us. 9 times out of 10, it didn't even come from us. It came from something that we heard somebody say at some other point, something that we saw, and it was something external that we then took in and held on it internally, and it started to manifest and grow inside in a negative way.
Yeah.
So in the past, have you been affected by having that paralyzed mindset, and how did it affect your life? How did you change that?
Oh yeah. I mean, we are all victim of that every day. You got to be conscious of what that is. What is a like let's really talk, right? I'm never gonna come up, and that's one thing about me. You're gonna get the real deal. So yeah, it's a ongoing, awareness. And so let's talk about what I mean. Subconsciously, our brain is wired not to make us successful, is wired to do what? Make us safe. So I'll give you an example, right? Subconsciously, if Jorge got burnt with the stove at 5 years old, right? Subconsciously, what is the memory? What the subconscious program is telling me is, Jorge, don't trust the stove. So since I've been 5, I'm always looking at the stove like yo, I'm not messing with you. I'm not messing with you, right? We're talking about a stove, but we're not really talking about a stove, right? Some people,
Mhm.
some of us have been hurt by a certain individual. We've been either sexually abused, we've been physically abused, we've been, come out from a traumatic where there's drug abuse, right? Like we all have some type of situations where we have experienced, and our brain, our subconscious, have created programs to protect us, keep us safe. And so ultimately, if Jorge goes through the course of his life from the age of 5 to the age of 47, and I always look at stove like, yo, I'm just not, what is that really doing? Let's take a look at it. The reality is paralyzing me, because through that process of me looking at the stoves and not wanting to influence myself or interact with a stove, um, the reality is that when I got burned, I was 5 years old. Most likely, I just didn't know how to navigate through a stove. Now that I'm 47, I'm grown. I know how to navigate through a stove, but I just, the subconscious always brings me back to that moment, and it feels like if it was yesterday that I got burned. So that process and that programming, you have to be very careful, because that's where we get paralyzed. Now, how does it paralyze me? It paralyzes me because I might not want to be able to cook for myself. I'm always dependent on somebody else. I'm always like, yo, I don't do stove. So I tell myself that's not what I do. I don't talk to people, right? Now we use the stove analogy, but let's talk about those that been betrayed. Somebody did us wrong. Now you look at the world like everybody's suspect. You look at the world like, you know what? I don't mess with people. Okay, how is that really helping you, and how is that really paralyzing you? The reality is this: you grew through that experience. You're not the same person. Whatever behaviors were happening at the time, you learned through it. So now the self-awareness of understanding, number one, that programming that kept me safe the beginning of the, from 5 to 10, protected me because I knew not to go and touch the stove. But anything after that, like, now I understand that the stove doesn't burn me unless I do something that I'm not supposed to do, right? So when it comes to relationship, it comes to anything that really we tend to deal with trauma. What we go through is not who we are, and we shouldn't allow our thought process or that programming to override our life, because majority of the time when we do that, that's usually where we're not growing. And so if you have been hurt by someone or been hurt by something, and now you keep it to a point that you don't associate or even go into that space, it's going to keep you from the good people, it's going to keep you from the good information, it's going to keep you from the growth. And ultimately, that's really understanding, like, how do I become self-aware? And it's going back to what I just said when I just started speaking about this. Jorge understand that as a human being, we're always going to have that paralyzed mindset. There's these programming. So I'm intentional, just like I'm intentional going into the gym. It's something that you have to work on. You got to understand who you are. You got to identify what are those areas that you do have to, the little Jorge inside. I always talk about little Jorge inside is the one that's scared, feels like he's been. At one point, I understood that acceptance, just in certain areas, a certain group, that was a thing for me. So understanding that and really becoming aware of those emotions when I do appear into a situation and somebody says something or does something and I feel disrespected, or I feel that I'm being pushed away, my triggers, my programming will ultimately used to allow me to do XYZ, but that would become a contradiction of what Jorge wants in life right now, and what I'm actually wanting, what I'm doing, are two different things. So that within itself, I would see it, and before I go down the rabbit hole, I would say to myself, okay, we know what those results are going to be, right? So what are the things that I can't do? What are the things that I should do? So I'm not positioned in a way where I'm shutting myself out of the world, keeping myself from everybody and just isolating myself, or even just going into a situation with just negative thinking. I hope that makes sense.
It does. It does. And you touched on it in so many different ways and in so many different areas. A lot of times when we talk about different things that can hold us back, when we give like one example or one analogy, it makes it too easy for people to be like, oh, well, no, I don't have that problem. That's not me. And it's like, okay, you might not have that specific problem or that specific backstory, that specific thought, but everyone does have something that can cause them to have that paralyzed mindset. And I really like that you brought up the concept of basically dying to yourself daily, that you have to be aware of it And you also have to address it daily, because a lot of times, and me included, we will work through some things, we'll go really, really hard at it. And it's like, okay, I can feel myself growing, but I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going. And then other people around us are like, oh my goodness, like I can see your growth and it's glowing on you. You're doing so great. And then we think, oh well, okay, I'm finished in that area. And then we'll move on to something else, forgetting that we need to do the maintenance for that thing that we fixed. And we'll find ourselves kind of sliding back to, or we'll trip up and be like, oh, well, nah, I don't need to address that because I've already fixed it. And just knowing that we need to do at least a daily inventory of some of those things, we may be able to, peel back a little bit. It may take us 20 minutes to be focused on it at first. We may be able to dial that back to 17 minutes. After you get really good at it, you may be able to dial it back to 10 minutes, to the point where in the moment you can automatically recall that this is one of those things that, okay, let me stop right here in the moment. Let me do a little 5-second, 10-second, 30-second maintenance. Let me think before I respond. Let me hold my tongue before I make a decision if I need to. Let me make sure that, you know what, I probably won't make the best decision on this today. Can you give me let me get back to you in a day or two with a response to that? Or, if it's one of those times where that you're ready to go 0 to 100.
Yep.
And
Get out of my
sometimes that's
business.
all you can do.
Get out of my business. But I think I couldn't have had articulated that any better than what you did. You need to know self, and you need to really understand what that is, and what are those areas of growth, what are those areas of blind spots, what are those paralyzed thoughts and mindset, right? Because it's probably not in every area of your life. So when you take inventory, which I love, you said take inventory of where the areas that you are not scoring, and you're not really maximizing, you're not getting the results you seek, whether it's in your as a husband. Like, I listen, that's important to me. So I'm always giving myself a report card and what would God say about you, Jorge, right now? That's my go-to. Okay, if I ask God, what would He say about you right now? Because He sees everything. And so when you start really being intentional with understanding that thought process, you're going to be more clear than what you think in regards to what's working, what's not.
That's dope. That's dope. Write both of those things down, y'all. I know I've had y'all write down before, taking inventory of self and the areas you need work on, and sometimes those thoughts and feelings. Go ahead and write that down. What Jorge just said, talking about create that report card. If nothing else, that could be a thought stopper right there. What would God think of me in this moment? If you can think fast enough to just think that one question, I guarantee it'll stop you in your tracks and it'll close your mouth, because it has done it for me. I can guarantee y'all that. Y'all know I don't stop talking, but when I do, it's because I need to think real hard before I say the next thing that I'm going to say, so that I can
Yeah.
respond properly and within love, instead of just popping off and letting whatever come on out. So, as we're talking through how we need to take this daily inventory, and sometimes we'll have slip ups and different things. So when we're talking about pitfalls as we're on this growth journey, and experiencing failure, what advice do you have for us on like how failure works into this whole growth journey thing? I, for one, I hate losing. I hate losing. So what would you say to us on that?
I used to share the same thoughts on failure. And I'm gonna keep it 100 with you, because that's the only thing I could do, is just be myself and really talk to you of what I've experienced. What I realized, that even though when people see me, just and they're like, "Yo, I'm sorry you're in a wheelchair, Jorge. I'm sorry you got to go through that." I smile, and I'm like, "Why are you sorry?" And it's like, because you have to deal through that. I want everybody that's listening to really understand what I'm saying. While somebody from the outside might look at me and say, "Man, that sucks. He's losing because he can't walk, he can't do this, he can't, whatever," right? And yeah, you're right. But the reality is, if you really look at Jorge's story, that chair was definitely not only a win, but it's been what has been sharpening me for the last 30 years. That chair itself has allowed me to warp myself to the man that I am today, with empathy, with just identifying the characteristics that I need, that I want, that God has given me to be able to provide impact. Because at the end of the day, one thing that I've learned is that without failure, there's no growth. And I want y'all to really think about this. You think that whoever's winning, if we're talking about sports, if we're talking about somebody that is in academia, if we're talking about somebody that the Steve Jobs, like whoever, you Amazon, I don't care who you watching right now. If you really think that those individuals never lost and they are where they at because they just been winning, I promise you that's where you're miscalculating. They have more losses than win, but the game of the beauty of losing is that every time they lose, they take that information and they get better from the last time they actually did something. And so I get excited. Jess, you and I were supposed to have this podcast last week or 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago, right? What happened to Jorge? I got sick. I ended up in the hospital. I deal with a lot of UTI infections. And so I was in the hospital for a week plus. I went, dealt with some kidney challenges. And every time I go through that process, I'm not going to lie to you, it's not cool to be in the hospital, but I take it to make a reset. I take it to take inventory. I take it to identify, because Jorge is on the go, 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 just like a lot of you guys. We're in 2024, so information. We're jumping from 9 to 5. We're doing entrepreneurship. We're doing both. We have families. We have titles. We have significant others. All that within itself does not allow us to even value the areas where, okay, that's not what I wanted, but I could see how I could do this different. And I think we're in such a space that instant gratification is the way everybody thinks is the way to go. And I just want you not to only slow down, have patience, but encourage yourself that it's all right to lose. What happens with majority of us is that we're so afraid to losing that we never even move. We never even try, because the fear of losing is bigger than the fear of achieving. And the fear of achieving, you're only going to get it through the what? Through the course of learning, which I don't even use the word lose, but it's more of a learning process. And that right there ultimately hits you to what we call mastery.
Okay. That's dope, because it gives me a whole different way to think about failure. Really isn't failure. Failure is practice. So a fail equals a lesson, and that's just it. I'm a lifelong learner, love learning new things. I'm constantly and consistently looking for ways to improve myself. So by reframing that verbiage in my head from fail equals a lesson, that gives me a more positive spin and a different way to look at that. And I know that will help me to not look at anything that goes wrong, or if I have to take an L, it makes me look at it in a way that I'm just that much closer to getting the win, and that I don't have to, okay, this is one less hurdle. I've already gotten over this one. Even if the next time is another L, it's another failure, it's another mistake, at least I'm going to learn something else from that as well. And what I've come to find over time is that sometimes, even though I'll be upset in the moment because I'm like, oh, dang, like I didn't want to fail at this. Sometimes those failures, they aren't just for you. You can get something out of it, but don't forget, don't just take that and put it in your back pocket, because any of the fails that you've had, those lessons, they aren't just for you to help yourself. Those are for you to help when you're moving forward and helping others to move forward so that you can pour into other people's life. So for me, at least, therein lies the value there.
Talk that talk, because I think it's all comes down to your perception of what the L stands for, right? What the L stands for you?
For me, it got to be a lesson.
So majority of us, including myself, right? There was a seasons where I was like, yo, I lost this. Really didn't lose anything, right? And so if you look at it, for those that are out there right now in transition, about to go into a transition, coming out of a transition, just know that everything you consider a loss, you need to change the perception of that and say, I've learned this lesson. I've learned what not to do, how to get better, what it is. Because if you look at the Michael Jordans, you look at, I promise you, you see their stacks and you really understand that they lost more than what they won. But when they won big. And it's because they were actually, that's the individual. Those are the two difference between individuals that refuse to look at it like a lesson, and they just refuse to sit and pout and take it as a loss because now you already gave up. Those that take it as a lesson, when you get a license, it doesn't say Jorge took his barber license 5 times. What it says master barber. So it don't matter how many times I took the test. It don't matter how many times I did XYZ, as long as I did what? Hit that goal and achieved it. And that's going to bring the value of what you're doing and how you're doing it.
That's facts. And sometimes that'll give you what you need to outlast everybody else that got it on the first time, because that makes it mean so much more to you. So you're going to take care of something that you had to work hard for. That's
Yes,
for sure.
ma'am.
Well, I thank you so much for taking the time with us today. I so appreciate you. I am more than happy to see that you are in good spirits, that you're feeling better. I can see it, and the glow is different, and it even makes your smile light up different, man. So that really warms my heart, and my spirit is hugging you since I didn't get to hug you for what's been like a month or so. It ain't even been that long, but still, I'll be missing y'all in real life.
Yes. Listen, I just, again, I want to echo everything you're doing. I'm super proud of you. I'm honored and blessed to be able to come on your platform and share. And I pray that, anybody, your followers are, have gotten some value of this. If I had to leave you with anything, is that life is what you make it. And we could sit in our excuses and we could always find a way to cop out on what's in front of us. But one of the things that I learned from Jess, and I'm such a fan of what she does, her and her hubby, just in general, is that you always show up and you always make the adjustment, no matter what that is, even when it doesn't feel good. Like, and I respect that. And that's why you and I A1, right? Because it's not about how it's gonna look, but you built different. And so I want to shout you out. I want to shout you out for not only being obedient. It's not easy. There's some days we don't want to show up, but you show up. I'm watching you. I can't wait to see what God has next for you and your family. Continue to grow this platform. And when you say everyone can't go, I get it. I so get it, right? And I'm just blessed to be on the train with you. I'm blessed to not only be in the train, but we have first class in there. And I encourage everybody that's listening right now, get on the train, right? Reach out to Jess, reach out to whoever you need. Don't just stay on the sidelines, because 2024 of third quarters just began, and you still have 2 more quarters to make sure that 2024 is a win for you. And now is where you make the adjustment. So again, life is what you make it. I appreciate you. I believe in you. Most importantly, God believes in you. Let's get it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And we appreciate you all. And we will see you guys next Wednesday for another Everybody Can't Go Convo.